Alright, I got round 2 for you guys. If you haven't seen the first one, check out my channel and you'll see the first part of how I made this knife. But we're kicking it off on this part with how to make the clip. So just this one has a straight clip. It's pretty simple. So just cutting it out and grinding on the edges, making them nice and straight. And then we'll go ahead and drill it. Right there I'm marking the center of it. But drill through and then countersink with the screws. And then we'll put it on the knife. So I drill one of the holes, screw it to the knife, and then after that I drill through all 3 layers. That way I can get the clip placed exactly how I want it. You can mark it, but I've done that before and it sometimes is off a little skiwampus. That's a huge pain. But little shaping of the clip, it's not too hard. This clip is going to be out of the same Damascus, that Stardust Damascus, so it will match the knife. It'll do the same kind of deep and dirty etch that we are doing on the blade, so they'll have that kind of post-apocalyptic look, which I like. Here we're just hogging off the material on the clip, and then so to get it to etch right, you need to heat treat it just the same as the blade. And I'll obviously temper this one back to softer than I would do a blade because it needs to be springy. But if you just try and etch it as mild still or annealed still, it won't etch the same as a blade. Interesting fact. Throw it in the oven, same as you would the blade, so that's my heat treating for this video. Next we're jumping over to milling the pivot screw on my Nomad Pro. So right there I'm just finding the center of that and setting that 0 on the mill, and then just milling out this custom design that I made in Fusion 360. So I'm a big fan of this one. It's a 1/2 inch pivot, and I think it'll look pretty sweet on this knife. We'll sandblast it and blacken it as well. I'm trying to do this video a little bit different just because of past ones. I'm trying to explain every little thing, and I'm not going to do that, so I'm going to just say what I'm saying when I say it and leave it at that, and you guys let me know which one you like better, just so I'm not just like before. I felt like I was just too trying to yammer stuff in and talk too fast, and I think this way will make it a little bit less annoying. Right there I'm just chamfering the edges, which is sweet because you can, it goes from kind of this rough thing to clean it up, so that's always a satisfying part. But super easy. You just screw the next one in and run the exact same program again. Super useful and fast. Starting the hand sanding, and I spared you guys a long amount of hand sanding, so you're welcome. But then just clean up the flats with a magnet. Here I'm just chamfering all the edges, just so it feels good in the hand. There's a lot of sharp edges before you're finished, and you gotta knock those off so it'll feel a little bit smoother. Here I'm throwing on these neoprene protectors so that I can etch the blade, and these just keep any acid from getting on that pivot. You can see that stop pin hole, not stop pin, the detent hole, and you just screw those metal washers down tighter and it will squish that rubber out and cover it. Clean it up real good, put it in the acid, and while we do that we're going to hand sand the clip to the same grit as the knife so everything matches when it's etched. So got it nice and smooth. You can see those tiny little dots. Those are like inclusions, and that's kind of near the bar, which I think got that bar for a discount, and that's probably the reason why. So make sure you cut your knives out of the center parts of your bar. Here the foreman is watching me sandblast all the liners, and you can see a little bit of the pattern before we start sanding it at all. Like I said, this is going to be a super deep etch. Neutralize it in the baking soda, turn it nice and brown, and then we'll take it over to the hand sanding station. This is how I turn titanium or even stainless steel black. You just get it red hot and dip it in oil. It works better if you've sandblasted it as well, giving it kind of a rough surface. I'm doing the same thing with the liners. I'm blackening them by heating them up red hot and then quenching them in oil. So here's a nice super focused shot of my shoulder. You're welcome. But you can see where those neoprene things where you got no etch from the acid, and that's why I like those. They're super useful. So the etch on the clip came out pretty cool. That's after just a quick sand to break off the outer layer and give some contrast. Same thing with the blade. So I love doing this particular etch to this still. I just think it turns out so cool, and you can feel that pattern with your fingernail. So if you ever do this with this steel, just make sure that you grind everything a bit thicker, because when you do this deep etch, you'll be surprised, but it definitely takes some thickness out of your edge. And if you already went to a super fine edge and then you etch it, you can find yourself having to lose a little bit of blade real estate. This is carbonizing. I don't know if I showed it. I think I showed it in my last video, but that just puts a thin layer of super hard carbide on the lock face to help it last longer. Etching the mark, sharpening everything. It's my favorite part. It makes the whole knife turn into a actual tool rather than just art. And I'm sorry, but I did oil slick that backspacer, which I love to do. You guys are probably getting sick of it, but it's my favorite, and this is my build, so my build, my way. Like I said, I'm keeping this one just because it was kind of a Frankenstein of different generations of parts, and so there's a few things on it that I wouldn't sell on a normal knife. It doesn't really affect it, but you'll see when it's open all the way, it's almost impossible to notice through the video, but that detent hole actually is out past the end of the handle. You can see it when the blade's open, which it's not really noticeable unless you're looking for it, but some bakers just do that and they think it's fine. I don't really like it that way, so I tend to keep mine covered up. But anyways, this one's mine, so I really don't care. I think it's gonna be a sweet knife anyways. Just getting everything nice and tight, and then this is always like a you want to make sure when you put it all together, everything goes together good. That's my custom pivot tightening driver bit that I use for this pivot pins I made. It goes in the two holes on the outside and the middle. So there she is, done, ready to roll. Action is perfect how I like it. No lock stick. It's rock solid when it's open. I don't know what I'm doing right here. Maybe I tightened it too much. I swear, maybe I don't think I think it's too tight. Anyways, we'll just open it and close it and kind of get it tuned to right where we like it. Sometimes it just takes a few, solid like I said. Clean it off, play with it a little bit. Just like you would normally do with anything else. Clean it off and play with it. So let me know what you guys think. I'm real happy with how this one turned out. At this point, I've been carrying this knife for, I don't know, almost a month, and I really like carrying my own knives. I'm going to make one of each of my knives so I can do some kind of field testing on each of them. One thing I realized is I really like knives that have more of like a hydraulic close. I don't really like drop shut closing knives unless it's like a button lock, like a Benchmade or something. Because otherwise it's just too footloose and fancy free for my taste. I kind of like to close it on my own prerogative rather than having it trying to bite my fingers when I close it. But obviously that's just preference. So I thought the 80s and that particular edge, I don't know, apocalyptic look. And this still is 3V and CPM 154, and it's a freaking beast. I sliced through everything with this guy, and I've really enjoyed it. So you'll see me do one initial adjustment, and that was I had to polish the end of that clip because it was like tearing up my pants. So there you go. Thanks guys, and like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.